So welcome to the, what is this, the 13th annual Esoteric Astrology Workshop. And our subject this year is the sixth ray, your visions, your hopes, your ideals, your dreams, your higher possibilities, everything connected with Mars and Neptune in your chart, and possibly with, well, I don't dare say it, but Venus is involved too. But that's just for people who walk around in a monadic state, which I think after a few days you will. So we have our international team of astrologers with us, and I know that we have Nicholas Nilan, just raise your hand, and Elena Dramcini, and Peter Kubaska, and Jan Dietrich, Kathy Newbern. We have Lawson Bracewell. Nobody wants to sit near me, it's okay. We have me, you know. And we're going to do our best to help you interpret what it's like to be on the burning ground and how you can make your way through that using the powers of Mars and Neptune, the lower and the higher sixth ray, and the elevation of the fires of the solar plexus into the heart. We're going to work on those things with you, and hopefully we will all emerge just a little bit more enlightened after our 3 days together. It'll be both personal work, individual work, and also group work. So before I carry on too much, we're going to have a meditation. Our lights are just a little bit sort of the on and off variety, but we'll dim them, so to speak, a little bit at this point. We're going to meditate on the way you use idealism. Some people think that idealism is a factor that relates only to the astral body, or perhaps the mind, or perhaps the personality only. This is not the case. Idealism is a very wide and broad factor in planetary, systemic, and universal expression. The soul has tremendous idealism, and if it weren't for the idealism of the monad, none of us would be here. We would have never started our long pilgrimage millions and millions of years ago. And all the great beings, they have their own variety of idealism, in which they are reaching out towards a vision of their own possibilities in the great reuniting that is occurring in our cosmos. So it's always a visioning of that which lies ahead and is more desirable. You can never get rid of desire. You can only, what can we say, you can co-measure your desires, as Master Moria tells us. You can choose your desires. You can choose to elevate that quality of magnetism which reunites the cosmos after it's been fragmented through the process of self-division. I mean, you know, it's all one thing, but through self-division we've entered a state of apparent fragmentation, and desire is what brings us all back together, at least the right kind of desire. So this particular meditation, and I would suggest you maybe have something to write with, might be useful. And let's see, Bob, we won't need the screen in back of me anymore. Is there a blackout? I hesitate to ask for such things because, you know, anything could happen. Oh, it looks like a very nice group, and we will be joined later by others who want to have their chart read. It's just a question of learning something, you know. But I always say that the more you learn about someone else, the more you'll learn about yourself. And by the way, where's Francis and BL? I want to introduce Francis from Santa Fe and BL from Florida, is it? And they are on our astrological team too, and if anyone dares, you can sit near me over here. One of you. Maybe two. It's all right. You have to face the audience. Pretty soon we'll outnumber the audience, but it's okay. Michelle, hi. So that particular door behind us should perhaps be sealed. Is that possible? Or are we doing that for ventilation purposes? We have to tile the lodge, so to speak. There. Feel much better. Cancer rising behind closed doors, it's all very good. My wife and I are always, exchanging. She opens doors, I close doors. I mean, it doesn't sound good, but, she has Leo rising, open doors, and I have Cancer rising, pull the drapes. Okay. All right, so this is the kind of lighting we have. What about these fluorescents? Is there any way to turn them off? Ah, yes. Very good. No, I'm just fine. I'm intuiting it anyway. All right, friends, so now we will be meditating primarily about where your idealism comes from. What kind of idealism motivates you? Is it an idealism which is born within the personality? Is it born in the way the personality responds to your higher soul nature? Or is it the idealism of the soul which is actually animating you in this life? We want to look at that. We want to broaden our concepts of devotion and idealism and how they operate in our lives. So we'll just begin by being still, quiet, take a few regular breaths, quiet everything down. The outer person quieted. Withdrawing from the outer scene. We're quieting the emotional desire nature. Achieving a sense of emotional poise. And perhaps for our types, most important to quiet the lower mind. And feel that we have these instruments which we call the body, mind, and emotions, but we are not the instruments. We are the consciousness, the point of being consciousness that uses these outer forms. You are the soul in incarnation. And try to get a sense of that, detached. Detached as a being from everything that you have, everything you work through. You are a non-material essence working through many grades of energy force. You are the observer. And the eventual master of all these fields which are your instruments. And we begin to merge and blend into the soul field, where we are magnetically related to each other in the soul state. We feel the fusion in the field. We are so many egoic lotuses on the higher mental plane where the soul body is found, and we relate to each other in the light, in the soul love, and with an attitude of sacrificial will. There is a oneness we begin to feel in connection with each other. It's not personal. It's the art of relating soul to soul as all harmoniously, magnetically connected according to the law of magnetic impulse in one soul field. Now, from this perspective, where wisdom is found, an inner wisdom that you have because of many life experiences, you're going to try to shed some light on some important questions for a conference on the sixth ray of devotion and idealism. Think to yourself your own definition in the light of the soul. What really is devotion? What is it really? What really is an ideal? We have the three forms that you know about: the idea, the ideal, and the idol. What really is an ideal? Sometimes in our teaching, the outgoing sixth ray is met with misunderstanding. We don't realize how important are these factors: devotion and idealism, which will still be with us for another 21,000 years in the larger cycle. So we have to understand. Now, with some thought which could be elaborated on the true nature of devotion, the true nature of an ideal or of idealism, we try to realize that in many ways, at our present level of human experience, we are Gemini. We are two. Ultimately, we are three, which becomes two, which becomes one, but for the moment, we are two. We have a personal self, and we have a vehicle of consciousness on the higher mental plane that we call the egoic self. We are both. So the first step is to focus from an objective perspective on your personal self. Your personality, a distinct human being in time and space, apparently unique and different from all other human beings. Your personal nature. Perhaps many here feel they have outgrown their personal nature, but really that is something that happens at the third initiation and beyond. So it's not so likely. And perhaps go back in time, maybe when you were a little younger perhaps, and were living more as a personality, a union of mind, emotions, and vitality and body, all united. Put an eye on your personality. And what does it feel like? What's it like to be a personality, a distinct human being in the three worlds? Probably you can see yourself at certain times in your imagination operating as a personality. That sense of connectedness generally isn't there. It's a sense of being separate, perhaps. Separate in your identity. And surely there have been years when we have functioned more as personalities than as souls. So what is the nature of this personality which you, the consciousness, the point of being, what is the nature of this personality that you own, so to speak? And when you get the sense of being that person, very often perhaps in your younger years, but at various times when the vibration is perhaps not as high as it could be, To what were you devoted or are you devoted as a personality? What did you wish for, yearn for? As a personality, what did you want, idealize? What were your dreams? When you were within personality consciousness, or are, what are your highest ideals from that perspective? It usually involves enhancing the personality in some way. See if you can understand what those hopes and dreams were and are from that personal perspective. The word I, in the lower sense, becomes very important. I wish, I desire, I am devoted, I idealize. As a personality, what did you desire? Get the feeling. I use that word on purpose, related to the sixth ray. Get the feeling of these devotions, these ideals, their direction, the way they are limited and limiting you, who are in a lower realization of identity. So maybe then you are seeing what were your strivings, your yearnings, your personally limited aspirations for yourself, what you wanted to become, what you wanted to achieve, when you were limited by strictly personal consciousness. And we'll store the memory of what we have seen here, what we have felt, and we will change our focus. Because idealism is not limited to the personality, nor is devotion. So take a breath and release yourself from personality identification, and again, however you do it, conceive of yourself more as that inner being, that consciousness which is detached from all the personality nature, that inner something which is the soul on the higher mental plane, which is your true home between lives, between incarnations. Get the feeling of being above and beyond and withdrawn from the more customary self. So in fact you are realizing yourself in your soul identification. It's really different from the limitations of the little personal self. Try to feel that difference. It is a major discrimination. To live within that soul center, as opposed to living under the spell of the four elemental personality lives. Now probably in your life these days, at least for many, you're attempting to live consciously as a soul. You are disidentified from your body, from your states of vitality, from your states of attraction and repulsion, from the many thoughts that circulate through your mind. You're the observer of those. So when you are being a soul, knowing yourself as a soul, identifying yourself as the consciousness behind the scenes, literally behind the scenes, to what then are you devoted? When in your higher nature, what do you yearn for, wish for? What do you idealize? In this truer identity, what are your highest ideals? So let's pause for some silence on that. You are a soul. You have the devotion of the soul. You have the idealism of the soul. What are your objectives, your visions, your aspirations, your longings, when you are being more a soul than the limited little self? And you may find that as you think in this way, envision, imagine in this way, as if you were the soul, which you are, that the focus in your etheric body may move up to the higher chakras, perhaps away from the solar plexus, so active in the personal state, into the realm of the heart and beyond. You may discover this. Quite a different feeling, perhaps, a different perspective. And I'm going to ask you to think about the contrast. The ideals, the wishes, the yearnings, the aspirations of two different selves. Because when you ask yourself the question, what do I desire? To what do I aspire? To what am I devoted? What are my ideals? You're going to have to decide which self is talking. And Sharon, I'm going to ask you to take care of that. Which self is talking? Perhaps a fusion one day, maybe it's in process, but we must discriminate. When you look at your horoscope, there are higher potentials and lower depending on which self is active. Depending on whether you are going around the circle in the clockwise manner as a limited personal being, or whether you are stepping into group consciousness as a soul. It's a fundamental discrimination, and your horoscope can be interpreted as if you were a personality, or as if you were a soul expressing through that personality. So maybe some of you are familiar with astrology, probably most. Can you think briefly of what Mars could mean on a soul level or a personality level to you? It's the same Mars, but how are you using it? Can you think of what Neptune could mean to you if you respond to its energies as a personality, or if you elevate them and achieve a soul response? You are responsible. The energy is there. It's in your horoscope. You can use it. But how will you use it? And who will you be when you are using it? So just for a moment, think about your higher dreams, your more spiritual longings, your highest aspirations, the vision you hope to fulfill in this incarnation and maybe beyond. These high patterns which do not yet exist in this world, but can one day exist if you follow your dreams wisely and fulfill your highest ideals. What are yours? It's so important to have high dreams, to be able to outpicture in the imagination the ideal states which do not yet exist but must exist in time. And that's what we will be doing. Looking at that which will take you higher than you are now, and will take your group or your groups higher than they are now. Because in the sixth ray, the highest light controls. The highest light controls. And in this way, we can grow beyond our present ring-pass-knot, repattern all our limitations, and make the higher patterns actualities in our everyday life. But first, we have to know what they are. So during these days, think of what you could be and are not yet. And we will try to use the astrological energies to find ways to get there. So with this orientation in mind, we will together sound the great mantram which embodies the divine plan and is a great ideal of a great idea, telling what the planet and the human being can become. The great invocation. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. I'd like you to hold the alignment a little bit and just quietly find a neighbor or a friend and just share a little bit about the vision, about the ideal, about the dreams, about the possibilities which appear before your inner eye when you think about what you might become if you use this sixth ray of devotion and idealism in the right way. We'll just spend a few minutes doing that. Try not to raise your voices too much. Try to keep it quiet and just discuss, and then we'll go on with our work. We'll introduce everybody. If you will kindly do that, please.